It is helpful in my opinion. He calls a field an ether perturbation modality.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Ether
Okay.
perturbation modality, whatever that means.
Do we
Yeah.
Yeah. And so another thing somebody brought up recently to illustrate like how ether is in 3D space. Do you ever heard of the magnet and the copper thing? Like
Yep. Yep. Yep.
an alternator, yep. If you spin the magnet, it doesn't generate a field.
Yeah. That's freaked
But if you
out, bro. Yes.
yeah, if
Yes.
you spin them both, it does. And if you spin just the copper, it does. Yeah, that's a great way to kind of visualize in your mind how it's not you think of the magnet as a physical thing, but the magnet is just polarizing what's in three-dimensional space. You
Yeah,
know?
it's what happens around it. Yeah. Yeah. Very well said,
Yeah.
bro. Yeah. Yep.
Because it is hard to wrap your mind around this shit. It's not easy, you know, especially when you've been told space-time curvature. Like that is such a mind fuck. Like because relativity kind of makes sense in a way in your mind. You're like, oh, okay, I can see all the planets spinning around and they all kind of attract each other, you know. But if you really, really think about it closely, that it does fall apart, you know. Like, why doesn't the sun pull the moon away? And why? How does it operate like a clock when it's a chaotic? You know.
You also heard him talk about how you can take a magnet and it be like 100 yards down the street of like one of those old school like tube TV, and as you like move
Yeah.
wave the
Yep.
magnet back and forth, it'll like glitch out the TV.
From that
Yep.
far,
What's
that's
his name?
crazy.
There's an example of that. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Witsit, that I trust you 100%, bro. And yeah, I got your back, dude. I ain't one of those cats.
Billing
I
for
was
the
thinking,
network.
by the way, just so I guess the first place I'll say this publicly, but pretty sure I'm about to drop the 25-hour long 360 video. So the naysayers can have fun with that, I guess. Got their work cut out for them.
Is
You were in
this
the
where you get,
Mandalorian set. Come on, bro. Don't try to
yes,
put this stuff on us.
is this where you get your street cred, Witsit?
Eric Dubay tells you didn't go, bro.
No, I'm sure they'll still say it's fake. Something.
What I
You
just
say Eric
posted,
Dubay
this is
what?
what you're talking about, the magnetic stuff. Paradox. Unipolar dynamo. Read that shit, guys.
No, I heard Eric Dubay call me a shill, but not by name.
He dropped the video of you. Well, he says the whole thing was filmed on the Mandalorian set, the Volume studio.
Eric Dubay said that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As he just posted it, and I just watched it. It's pretty good, really. But I don't know. It's convincing, let's say that. But there's a lot of I don't know. The whole fucking vape gate shit. That's I don't know. It's silly. But what is interesting is the that thing with McToon's shadow. That is weird.
No,
Yeah,
Dave already replicated that. Dave
really?
had his wife just walk in the
Riggs
parking
already
lot.
did that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was asking ChatGPT about it, and it was basically saying there are weird shadow anomalies because of the sun's angle, because it's quite low or something like that. So
It's based on like this light source and the thing casting the shadow and the angles and the camera's relative angles.
yeah, because the guy does actually move the camera as well, doesn't he? As I remember that bit, yeah.
Have you
That was
spoken
the
to
first
Dave
thought.
Weiss? What's it? You spoken to Weiss at all?
Yeah, text here and there. I'm supposed to have a call with him later.
Because he's really going on a fake journey. Like, yeah.
Yeah, what he's doing is good. Like exposing all of them with demonstrations. It's good. I'm disappointed in Dubay, man. I did not know that. That's so bad because it's not going to age well for any of these people, man. So I don't know. It's just sad.
Well, Dubay has been calling everyone a shill since 2015. Like anyone
Yeah,
from Ghostbusters, Jiren, etc.
yeah, but to go as far as like making specific claims about how it was faked is so retarded. And he's actually never called me a shill. So I know some people that have talked to him about me, and he's like, "Oh, I think he's legit. I just think his company's sketchy or whatever." But
I mean, he might not have been using your name, but you have been affiliated with Globusters and Jiren and stuff like that. So by
sure.
association, he is also calling you a shill in that sense,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, Weiss
Well,
was saying that it's all a shill. You're all shills. It's a 10-year scam. That's what Weiss is saying. It's been planned for 10 years. You're all shills. You, Jaren, the priest, the
no, that's
girl,
not what. That's
everybody.
not what White. That's not what Weiss is saying.
That's what he said, bro.
What? No, that's not what he said. He said he thinks that this may have been planned for a really long time, and it was a giant psychological operation where they tricked us as well. He didn't claim that we were shills.
Oh, he said you got tricked? That
Yeah, he's
you
saying
and Jaren? Okay.
Yeah, he's saying he thinks that this was like this big setup. Not even that. Not even that the phenomenon is fake. Just that we were like intentionally made to be really tired and delirious and set up.
And you couldn't. And how about the fake sun? You're not smart enough
Mm.
to realize that the sun was real.
He's not saying that the sun is fake necessarily. I'm supposed to talk to him later today though, but nah, he's not saying it was fake. I told him I saw sunspots, man. Hey, just like
Yeah,
I
but
just
he says, bro, he says that he doesn't believe that the sun is a 24-hour sun, unless I heard him wrong.
yeah, because I just heard a video of him from Flat Earth Friday, and he's saying that he thinks that we did see the sun. He said apparently where they were, that it does appear that that's a phenomena, but he thinks this was all like a setup, and that maybe some of the fakery was a setup. He doesn't know. It's blah blah blah. But I just can't believe Dubay went as far as to make a video saying it was filmed on set. Oh my gosh.
Oh, he shows the set and everything, the Mandalorian set, the whole works. Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, I was when I saw this guy, you know, he's wearing a dress at some point, and I'm like, okay, noted. That's sort of just
That
put that
is-
in the back
that is-
somewhere.
That is actually from one of his calling everyone a shill, where he's
Right.
acting like a steer, or is it
Yeah, Patricia Steer. Yeah.
or
But
the
either
other hot
way,
potato girl?
either way, I mean, he's got a dress on for fuck's sake.
Yeah, that's when I tuned off from this dude. Yeah, same. Yeah.
Wow, this is crazy. Because I think I have to get back home and look, but I think that I'm going to be able to drop that video a lot. And I think I can upload the whole thing to X. I don't think there's like a video time limit on X. I'm not sure because that's really long, obviously, 25 hours. So, and then I think that when it was actually exporting, it was so big, it was like a terabyte. It was exporting in like different files, so I may have to like put them together end to end. I'm not sure yet, but that's a super long video, obviously.
I'm
25
particularly
hours.
interested in seeing the solar filter. I want to see those shots because it's very rare you see that. You know, I've seen little bits where they put it on for a second and then they take it off and you're like, wow, that's very different. But I've never seen it like in long extended periods. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I've seen time lapse of sunsets and stuff like that with solar filters, but same when it comes to like obviously a 24-hour. I've never seen that even in the north, so yeah, should be interesting. I know that's a lot. That's also like very big files, and that's McKeegan's. So I was actually gonna try to reach out to him today. But yeah, just like I'll be right back.
As the sun circles, tune in next week for an update. Mwah.
I mean, does that dude sound like a fucking agent to you, really? I mean, does anybody sit there and tell themselves, no, that guy, yeah, he sounds like an agent? Like, go take a look in the mirror, bro.
I mean, at some point, it gets a bit detrimental, though, as well, doesn't it? Where I always think of that meme that gif of Fry from Futurama, where he's like squinting, like everybody's an agent. Like at some point, you got to go, oh, we're just gonna need to get away from all this stuff. Everybody's a fucking agent, shit, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun. I get it. It's fun to speculate on such things, but at some point, it's just not helping.
Guy just hit me in the comments. Agents don't sound like agents, and that's why they're agents or something. It's like, okay.
I will echo that, in that people are really delusional about that, in that they think that, like, if somebody was actually a spy in their back lines, that they'd somehow be able to tell based on, a shill would say this. Like, if anything, you have obvious shills that exist that, to where if you think of, oh, I know what a shill acts like, they act like this person. And then so when somebody is actually trying to be covert, then you'll have no idea.
I think
Everybody
that's
believes.
that you used the word delusional. Though, like every time I've heard anyone be mentioned as a possible shill, you've basically given the sales pitch that they are one. Like, can you name one content creator you don't think's a shill? Like, you said something to the effect of anyone that's been on InfoWars is a shill? I mean, so you can obviously someone could just say, well, that's pretty delusional as well, right? To say everyone is, and I think you also are smart enough to realize that the way that you present it, it is completely unfalsifiable. So it's like when, say, if I go there, it's like, oh, well, Austin was allowed to get big. He was a plant this whole time. He's obviously a shill. And then there's like a random flat earther that just kind of help hosts on Clubhouse and doesn't have a channel. Well, that's just a random person no one knows of. That's obviously a plant and a shill. So there's like, with this type of, like, this line of reasoning, right? It's so malleable. You can make the accusation of a shill fit any individual, and you can spin exactly opposite pieces of information to both supposedly be evidence of being a shill, and it's just entirely unfalsifiable. So one could obviously say that's delusional.
Well, I mean, so there's the other aspect is that if you never call anybody a shill, then your discernment on whether or not somebody is one is entirely useless. Because if you're not willing to call, Patricia Steer a shill, or any of these like really obvious cases where there's clearly some suspect things going on, like Alex Stein as an example, then it's kind of entirely useless about whether or not, oh, hey, I vouch for this specific person. But
you just kind of entirely avoided what I've said, though. Like every time any individual's been brought up to you, you've basically given the sales pitch that they're a shill, and you claim. And I'm just letting you guys know. You can take it or leave it, because I guess in your mind, I'm a shill, so of course I'm trying to trick you right now or whatever. I think that is delusional, but it's fine. But no, I will say, just so you guys know. For example, I know Alex Stein, right? Like, I've hung out with him in person. I know his actual line of reasoning as to kind of like the character he plays and how he was able to go viral and stuff like that. He's just simply kind of a clout chaser and will say or do anything to get views. And in that sense, if you want to call him a shill, I guess. But this idea that it's some super sophisticated, orchestrated plans to discredit truth or whatever, it's just not the case. Or like being on InfoWars or being on Timcast and seeing behind the scenes and stuff, and knowing a producer at InfoWars and knowing how all this stuff gets set up organically, to the extent that Alex Jones doesn't even know the people that are going to be on there half the time. And then to kind of come back out of there and then come to a place like this and hear people talk so authoritatively as if they know exactly how it all goes down. And it's all this big orchestrated mastermind operation. You can see, I mean, you should be honest enough with yourself that you can see in the scenario that you're just wrong. Someone that is seeing the other side of it would obviously think that you're being delusional, right?
Yes, but when you say you affirm the legitimacy of all of these people. You think that you're giving your credibility over to them, but if anything, you're combining credibility. When you affirm that, like, oh, I've talked to these people in the background, and like they're just normal people, like everything is just going on normal. You affirm that essentially you essentially affirm that the Alex Jones Sandy Hook show trial was legit.
No, I don't. It's like, no, I don't. I didn't say that. Like,
yeah, no,
I think
you said
Jones
like
still knows it was faked, and I think that was obviously a show trial, but I don't think that means that he is a CIA agent that had to be a part of it or something like that. I think he maybe has a bit of a drinking problem and is kind of all over the place and relies heavily on the people that run the show. And he kind of just shows up.
Yeah, so then let's just stick with Alex Stein, right? To where his entire start was in Hollywood. Like, he was on The Office, he was on House, he was on TV, 15 separate times and all these random like cringe dating shows and stuff. And so he goes on Jaren, and then the way he gets famous is these massive politicians allow him to yell in his face for 3 minutes plus, while the security guards are like fake holding him back. Like, it clearly looks like professional wrestling. Like, no actual person would be able to, in a private setting, yell at, Ted Cruz for all of this time. Like, it's very clear that they're sort of allowing that to happen, and then it instantly gets propped up on Alex Jones, who is also propped up by mainstream media in all of these senses.
He's like not propped up by mainstream media at all. Alex Jones. This is
Alex
another
Jones
part.
Is
this is
media.
another major. No, he's not. But this is another major component of it. For people that come up with these theories, they never like leave their house and do anything. Like, I've been in Washington D.C. I know that you can basically like ambush people as there's like and for like specifically with Alex, I know he sat outside for like 8 consecutive hours multiple times with no luck and not see anyone. So like, if someone doesn't do anything and they don't ever leave their house, like people that would never have gone to Antarctica, for example, are now experts on what Antarctica should have been like. People that have never even showed their face on camera are experts on how you should be able to do thousands of hours without ever accidentally throwing a AOK symbol. People that have never done a debate are able to Monday morning quarterback a 3.5 hour long debate and say that he didn't say this perfectly. Like, there are like watchers and doers. So like, if you actually have gone to DC before and walked around those places and tried to get close to politicians, you know that there are moments that they're like temporarily accessible. And if you're just talking to them, then they actually kind of have to let you talk to them until they can get away from you, because ostensibly it's free speech or whatever.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the Ted Cruz one, where it's in a private venue and the security guards are like fake holding him back, like this is some professional wrestling thing.
Yeah, I don't know specifically which one we're talking about, but word to the wise or whatever. You're saying like it discredits me because I don't call a bunch of people a shill. Like, and then you actually like falsely claim that I basically stamp these people, which isn't true at all. You can like search my entire catalog. You're not going to see me ever vouch for or stamp certain people. And so if someone was diligent enough to do that, they would probably be able to put together who I am skeptical of being a shill. But I do not just throw the accusation around willy-nilly or whatever. But this goes back to my other point, which is, well, yeah, if you're anonymous and you don't make any content, and you don't ever go out into the world and do anything, then what do you have to lose, right? Like, you can call everyone a shill. What's it going to do to you? Like, literally nothing. No one even knows who's saying it. But of course, I can't do that because I want to maintain credibility, and I know what it's like to be falsely accused of things with such a illusory conviction that it's like almost baffling. Like, I bet the Eric Dubé video in this weird way is like convincing. It's completely retarded. I was just literally physically in Antarctica. But I bet if I watch that video, it's somewhat convincing. It's very similar to how Nathan Oakley, if you go listen to like FED and you hear what they say about me, if you just listen to it for a long time, you would be like super convinced that what they're saying must be true. No one could be this convicted or this sure about something without it being true, but they certainly can.
And yeah, so, I mean, as I've said multiple times, I'm not convinced by any of the arguments that people have brought up. Like, I have every reason to believe that the footage is fake, as in, like, I would want to believe that. Yet nothing that has been brought up so far is like convincing at all. And so I'm not thinking in that sort of tribalistic mindset at all.
No,
and then second off,
I've heard you say that, yeah. But you do think that way, kind of, when it comes to content creators. Like, can you not see that a statement anywhere close to something such as anyone that's ever been on InfoWars is an agent is very potentially just outright retarded? Like, I know I've heard you speak. You're very articulate and even elegant, and you actually have well thought out, like, premises, I guess is the word, usually. So I know you're intelligent enough to understand what I'm saying to you right now. And that I think you kind of like it, which is cool, to each their own. I think you like enjoy the idea or speculations or like the detective type of vibe or whatever. And it's like, again, let's just be honest, really, what's the detriment if you're wrong? Right? Like, what do you really have? Let's say that 80% of these people you're calling a shill aren't a shill. Well, what does that do to you, though? Like, what's the consequence of that? There isn't one. So when you introduce consequence or credibility or a track record, it's much different, right? And I think people need to actually think about that, because at the same time that they ostensibly really long for people to go out and do that, show their real identity, sacrifice their real life and their well-being and their future employment, and be debanked. Like all these people calling me a shill have never been debanked. None of you have ever been debanked. None of you have ever tried to go get an Uber and randomly discover you're literally kicked off Uber. None of you have ever been in a random city and try to rent an Airbnb and find out you're kicked off Airbnb. So you guys have, like, you can see my perspective of it. Oh my gosh, please shut up. Like, because I actually do it, right? And then what happens is there's this group who kind of, like, the unspoken foundation of their accusations is the idea that they want someone to do it legitimately, right? You want someone to go out and speak the truth and expose the lies and kind of, reveal these truths to people legitimately.
So the entire basis for, like, my biggest proof for this kind of stuff is precisely because I go outside and observe and interact with a bunch of whole different people. I spent several years understanding people's gaits from a perspective of physical fitness, as in the way that you walk determines how good of a mover you are, how healthy of a person you are, because I did a lot of personal training for a long time. And so I literally observed thousands of gaits from the perspective of, oh, this is how people walk, this is how, like, good of an athlete they are, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm introduced to the concept that there is a distinct gait between male and female skeletons. And so I observe thousands upon thousands of people in real life. I see thousands upon thousands of people walking downstairs in real life. And I never see a single example in real life of somebody's bones betraying their presented gender. And then when I look on the internet, when I look at all of these big figures in media, they all just happen to have the exact opposite traits of what I personally see. And that's just pattern recognition. And that is the biggest proof that just cannot be ignored of every single trait that is attributed to a female skeleton or a male skeleton just always happens to be the exact opposite. Like, Robert's son Janice just has the smallest face ever.
Or you try to say that about me as well, and my wife. So now imagine my perspective where I've literally used my penis to make babies with my wife. So, like, just imagine that world where I literally make babies with my wife. And there's someone on the internet that swears up and down they've looked at pictures of us or taken a screenshot of the stream and we're actually the opposite gender we claim to be. Like, I just want you to really think about the scenario where I literally make babies, and then there are people claiming that I'm a woman and my wife is a dude. Now, if you were me in that scenario, what other word could you use to describe that accusation other than delusional? You actually, in that scenario, I'm actually exceedingly patient.
Yeah,
I mean, libel.
I don't think there's ever. I don't think there's ever any situation to where I could present a full case, a full argument of, oh, hey, here's the difference between a male skeleton, a female skeleton. Here's an observation of every single one of your traits: small face, small hands, small humerus, large hips, no brow ridge. Where's the curvature on the brow ridge? As the joke goes. I could make an entire presentation of, here are all of the distinct traits. Here's all of the traits that are shown within like you and people surrounding you. And then you would go, that's a good argument. I guess I am a shill. I guess I am a woman. I guess I am an agent. Like, no, I would never expect that to actually happen. So,
no, but I'm saying, what if you? Okay, but what if I'm just? This is what's so weird. Is like the accusation that I'm a woman or a Jew is one that just never really happened, and I didn't think I'd ever see the day where it's happening, but it is happening, dude. I have like an abnormally chiseled jawline and a abnormally noticeable Adam's apple. Right. So it's like we just shift the argument over. And you said I have small hands. I don't have small hands. So it's like,
relative to your wife and your heights, they are smaller.
What?
Dude, you say a lot. Oh my god.
Why are you gay?
It's just weird. And it's like think about this, right? Obviously, like what would I do to prove otherwise? I'm obviously not gonna do that. And this is the funny thing. If I did it, people would just claim it's faked anyway. So it's
You
like,
know what's funny? The guys
weird.
that's accusing you of being a shill, right? Yasukeh, and I'll say it in front of him. I said it before. To me, this guy sounds weird, right? Here's a guy coming out of nowhere, right? Just recently. He knows everything. He knows all the people. He knows all the little nuances. He sounds like a girl, right? And it's like everything about him, to me, like my spider senses tingle. So if you want to throw accusations, here you go, bro. To me, you sound like a shill. You sound like a weirdo.
Yeah, I've been coming in here for.
I actually think he's genuine. I think he even like kind of believes the stuff he says. And in this weird way, that's like really the only kind of litmus test I have for people. I don't really care what people think, as long as I think that they're being sincere. So I've never had a problem with you. I've never even like called you out directly or anything, obviously, but I do. So I kind of just, I guess the implication with what SC's saying is that maybe you're disingenuous or kind of put in place, which there's a good sales pitch for that, obviously, right? Would be that it's just constantly sowing division. It's the best sales pitch about Eric Dubay as well. Like an actual shill would seemingly come in and like sow division and throw accusations against people that are legitimate. And you do seem to do that a lot, right? But I don't
but in
even
a sense,
necessarily think that. I think you genuinely believe this stuff, but I, respectfully, I would say that it is literally delusional, and I don't think you guys realize how much it does to discredit a lot of the truths that we represent or attempt to expose. Because it's a very caricature that they try to create of us is that we're like just literally delusional, kind of schizophrenic, paranoid, and we suffer from pareidolia. Have you ever like stepped back and reconsidered like the idea that you're suffering from pareidolia? Like look into your like transvestigations, for example. Have you ever considered the aspect of pareidolia?
I understand the idea of looking for patterns when they're not there.
Yeah, have you ever considered that you're doing that? Because like I can assure you, my guy, that I'm just a man and I make babies with my wife who's a woman.
Yeah.
And
so
I'm just saying, I'm just asking you, here's a hypothetical question. Let's say I'm actually just a man and I actually make babies with my wife who's a woman. Let's just say hypothetically that's the case, okay? Then can you answer this question? Like, well, what has caused you to be so off that you think that the opposite is true? If you can't honestly answer that and think about it, and you can see that obviously you're going down a slippery slope where, you're going to get to where basically there is no true parameter of truth at that point, right?
yeah, so there would have to be two things that are there. Either there is no difference between male and female skeletons, which, does anybody ever actually want to defend that position? Or that there is some middle ground that exists where everybody is the exception. Like everybody that went on the final experiment is the exception, to where everybody just happens to have like the most like feminine traits possible. But also, jawline has never been a gender marker.
Dude, I'm in like the top percentile of testosterone. So like your assessment is just terrible, bro. Like now I'm super feminine, but that's just retarded. Like I'm actually trying to talk to you as somewhat like a real person. Like I said, I think you're genuine and I even think you're intelligent. So I'm trying to tell you, like as a real person, like whatever has led you down this path where you've truly become convinced of this narrative because you clearly believe it. I mean, like you should reconsider now. And I guess you could spin what I'm doing right now as gaslighting or whatever, but it's just stupid. And also I'm confused like how a lot of the people that do what you do lack pattern recognition so much while simultaneously claiming that to be like your strongest characteristic or strongest trait, right? Because if I was a shill, why would I come in here? Why would I come in here for hours and hours and hours, answer everyone's question, let everyone get every narrative they can conceivably think about and throw at me and like just answer them all, be super transparent, tell you all kinds of stuff about my personal life. Like there's a way stronger argument for people being a shield that completely avoid live interactions or going in a room where they have to kind of be raw and authentic or transparent. It's just ironic. The number one person that has accused people of being a shill is a guy that does that very thing. Not only does he not come in places like this, he doesn't even really take interviews. He doesn't do really much of any live streams. Only recently he's kind of done a few. He came in, gave us like a replacement model, said things very definitively. He never said, I think there is no 24-hour sun. He said, I know for 100% fact there's not even sunlight at all past 80 degrees. And he called everybody a shill. Every single one. You couldn't find one flat earth content creator he didn't call a shill. Actually, as far as I knew, I was like one of the only exceptions, and that's because Hibbler's friends with him. And obviously, I know Hibbler in real life, and he's been to my house, and I've been to one of his documentaries. And I just know him in real life, as in I know about his family life. I know about his daughter. He knows about my daughter. I know his wife. He knows my wife. Like I just know him in real life, and he is friends with Eric Dubay, and is convinced that Eric Dubay has presented some pretty strong arguments about people being shills, and so we've talked about a lot of it. And I'm like, okay, well, what does he say about me? Then he said he actually doesn't think you're a shill, other than he thinks that the company you keep is sketchy. And then I heard a couple days ago that he, now has called me a shill, just not specifically by name. I guess now he's put out a video and said it's all fake, which is obviously the necessary implications. All that to say, what I'm trying to say here is like, you guys don't ever even like account for like meta factors either. And it's perplexing to me because I bet that if we were to say talk about 9/11, you and I bet you would have pretty valuable input and you would actually have like decent pattern recognition in terms of dissecting that. And so I'm just actually trying to figure out like how does it go so off the rails that like now there's this massive conspiracy. Yeah, we're good. Massive conspiracy where like I have created a fake family with fake daughters pretending to have made them with a fake wife or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just so wild, bro. It's so wild. And last thing I'll say, rant, and I'll stop ranting. Dude, it's like you need to understand how detrimental this type of stuff is to the actual truth movement. Because I talk to many people, for example, that have big platforms and they know there's something to flat earth and they're afraid to talk about it because of stuff like this. It's like you realize that in order to actually talk about some of these truths, like even say Jewish supremacy, the flat earth conversation or many other things like that, it requires like true balls, bro. You have to be willing to like sacrifice everything. You have to sacrifice all kinds of stuff. Your whole life gets flipped upside down and there is no getting it back. I can't wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what? I kind of want to be able to use like normal avenues of payment processing and stuff. Like it's over forever. And future employment is now over forever in terms of like just like kind of a normal job or whatever. And, people are not, why would someone want to do that? when the community they do it for, it's the most like savage, unreasonable, accusatory, defamatory, slanderous group of people. So you should look at it.
Okay,
I'm asking that you actually consider that because it's
now,
extremely instrumental to like any true hopes of getting truth out there.
let's think about this. Okay, so this footage that we have from Antarctica, actually, so pushing the narrative that it could be faked is actually beneficial to quote unquote flat Earth movement or whatever, because it causes problems for the globe, because now they have this piece of footage that's allegedly being considered faked, but which is the footage that's supposed to be basically propping up their entire model. I mean, I haven't even heard a good excuse for the way the shadows behave yet.
Oh, yeah, like just be specific because most of the shadow videos have been debunked directly with like replication. For example, one of them like Mattoon shadow like triples in length, and that's impossible. Blah blah blah. Like Dave had his wife walk outside and just filmed the same exact thing happen.
Yeah, but this is the thing. What it does is it proves that the light source is close.
Yeah, that's a huge win for us, right?
Yeah, it disproves the fact that the sun is supposed to be 93 million miles away. So this is what I'm saying, right? So if the narrative that the footage is faked is actually pushed, right, and it gets into the globe world, right? So if the globe people hear that flat earthers are fighting over the legitimacy of this footage because of whatever, it actually raises more questions for the globe believers, because now they're like, wait, if it is faked, why did they fake it?
That's the real conspiracy, bro. Is who first posted this whole like vape gate narrative? Like a anti-flat earther. So why is an anti-flat earther posting this narrative that it was all fake?
Yeah, so wait.
Who was it that first brought this out?
Wait. Hang on. There were like specific questions that were asked of me before we got into like going into the footage. So first off, on the idea of, going into groups being something that, a shill definitely wouldn't do that. Like that, I'm not saying that is a definitive characteristic, but it is absolutely not something that is off the table of like going into groups, infiltrating groups, becoming friends with them. Like this is even like normie meme level status of what FBI agents do. Like this is exactly what a spy would do, is ingratiate themselves in a community over time, gain the trust so that trust can be weaponized in some way. Like, I mean, obvious example is, Sandy Hook itself. Like you bring all of the people in there earlier, you ingratiate them with the community so that when all of these things happen, there is that trust that can be weaponized. So in that sense, it's not a, being in a community isn't explicitly a, it doesn't really go either way in that argumentation. But also, on the other point is that, so I make all of these like really, really good pattern recognitions in every single other aspect of not only just conspiracy, but health, fitness, philosophy, religion, so many of these other things that I make like really, really insane patterns that nobody else actually sees. And then there's this one thing that is just this singular thing that my pattern recognition is just all out of whack. And like the trend is just completely gone. And this is the one thing that is just completely out there and completely the exception to the rule is effectively what would have to be argued.
You're just talking generalities, bro. Like, be more specific. Who are you talking about?
Yeah, so more specifically, I make all of these really interesting patterns that nobody else notices. As an example, I brought up the idea that every single flat earth communicator that has any relationship to scripture, more or less, is all of these like Hebrew roots, anti-Trinitarian Sabbath keepers, despite them making up like 0.005% of American flat earthers. And I've never seen anybody else talk about that. And then a couple days later, there's like 5 different channels talking about that, or 5 different accounts talking about that. Just an example of a pattern that I would recognize. But then when it comes to patterns of observing, bones, essentially, which is something that I have years of experience doing from the perspective of personal training, all of a sudden, this is the one thing that all of the other patterns that I see are like, oh yeah, cool. There's a lot of like interesting pattern recognition there. But then when it comes to bones, all of a sudden, I'm like super delusional and off the rails, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, bro, you think Witsit is a woman. To me, that's super delusional. Like, honestly, sorry, but I mean, if Witsit is a woman, like, I don't know what to tell you, bro.
And dude, I have like X-rays and stuff, right? For example, so I don't even know what you're talking about with bone structure, bro. But like again, you said I was feminine, and I test in the top percentile of testosterone like my whole life.
Yeah, I only
And you
look
said
at
I have little
look at bone
hands.
structure.
Dude, you
I
said
only
I have
look at
little
bones.
hands. And well, you said I was feminine and that I have little hands.
I'm only referring
You said your
to
hands are
bone
so small
structure.
you're scared to eat at Burger King.
He said you
Look
got
at the
perfect
mirror.
skeleton.
The way you
Yeah.
speak, Yasuke, is more feminine than Witsit.
Okay.
Now, if you tell me
Voice is
Rakia
not
is
a,
feminine, okay, I would believe
trait.
that. But, well, no, Witsit. That was a joke.
Yeah, bro.
I guess my point here was like really simple, bro. Like, have you actually considered? I'm just letting you know that it's obviously an objective fact that I make babies with my wife back to back, actually. I won't get any more in detail, obviously, out of respect. But I'm asking you, dude, just say that is just a fact. Does that not cause any hesitancy in terms of how you are evaluating truth?
You either have a discernible, like looking at relative of this photo that I just posted, like it's you and Lisbeth and Jaren. You either have a more pronounced brow ridge than Lisbeth does, or you don't. It's a binary. It either is or it isn't. And you have a less pronounced brow ridge than Lisbeth does. And then so the question then comes, is having a brow ridge a male trait or a female trait? And then you make patterns on like, this is one trait, look at the comparison, and then do that for every single other one. And it either is or it isn't.
Just to clarify, everyone look at the picture in the chat. He is saying this picture suggests that I'm a female.
Yeah, Lisbeth's a pretty cool looking chick, and Witsit looks like you're probably above average testosterone type male to me.
I invoked it for the brow ridge. For the brow ridge specifically. Because there are some traits that aren't like pretty sure. Like the common one that you see in movies is, ring finger being longer than the index finger, depending on whether or not you're a man or a woman. But that obviously has, like a 5% error rate or something. That's not 100%. So there are traits that, can have variance. Like when you are at rest, your clavicles have a V shape, which is typically a female trait. However, there are some guys that have that. It's only like 5% of guys.
Ring finger thing again, because now I'm looking at my ring finger. What's up?
For men, 95% of men, your ring finger is longer than your pointer finger when your hand is outstretched. And it's the opposite for women.
You're
so I'm female. I'm female.
5%. Yep. I'm part of the 5%. Wait. No.
Too.
So according to you, I'm a female, but I have a characteristic that only 95% of men do.
Are you referring to the clavicles?
No, my fingers. I'm looking at my fingers. You said that my ring finger is slightly longer than my pointer finger, right?
Ring finger longer than the pointer finger, yes.
Yeah.
Mine are too, yeah.
So I'm a female, but I have a characteristic that 95% of men have.
Yeah, this is why you take the preponderance of evidence. Because most people don't have every single female trait or every single male trait. Like, I have every single male trait. I have the most... It's always the joke, but I do have every single male skeletal trait possible.
How about the voice? You have the voice male trait?
Yeah, the voice.
Like, I've never heard a more male voice than yours, bro.
Voice isn't a gender trait. Jaw isn't a gender trait.
Could it be that perhaps like your voice is also, could it maybe need a masculine upgrade? Could be a good idea.
I mean, I just noticed that I talk
woman
less
now?
with my chest when I'm sitting down.
I'll be honest with you. There were some boys at my school. Like, I went to school in the 70s to the 80s.
No, man, no.
And
we're
they
not
were
going to a childhood story of.
no, but there was
Come on, bro.
guys in my school which fucking looked like they could have easily been girls, but they
Okay.
weren't. They were guys. We all
Yeah, but I
showered
don't
together.
look like a girl at all, dude. I have a full-grown beard.
But there's girls as well at my school. Believe me, there was one black girl.
Bro,
she was like a guy.
Heyday.
Well, it's just
It's not my heyday, is it?
Some people want to excuse their towards you without becoming too gay. So
Hold on.
they need to make you into the woman.
You got wild wind. You got wild wind. Hold on, man. Before the crazy crew comes in here, Schlitzy, just hold on a second. We're right in the middle of this.
Yeah, but it's just nonsense. Going around in circles talking about nonsense. Fucking hell.
Witsit don't do no feminine shit. And like, I don't see Witsit betray no feminine shit. Like, unless you think making babies with a woman is a feminine shit, then yeah, okay. But like, I don't get no feminine vibes off Witsit.
Yeah, this is why I'm not looking at behavior. I'm not looking at soft tissue. I'm just looking at hard tissue. In the same way that, we do have the x-rays of Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner. And if you want to say that you can only look at it if you have x-rays, like the x-rays are there and it's definitively a male pelvis. There's no way about going about that. And so if it is Kim Kardashian.
Could they be fake x-rays?
The next final experiment for Witsit
fingers,
is
though.
to
We got the
get
fingers.
it
You said
pelvic
95%. Just power through me. What about the 95% of the finger thing? You got the fingers, bro.
Yeah, so there are certain traits that have a margin of error. But there are certain traits that are effectively definitive. I've never seen anybody in real life who has their gait betray their presented gender, because it's a difference about how the hips insert into, or the femurs insert into the pelvis. There's a distinct difference between men and women with that.
Bro, I can't take this seriously, though, because you think all the NBA players are women.
Well, the reason I started entertaining it because I think it really elucidates the point that, like with this trip, for example, there is no way you're going to convince some people it was real. It doesn't matter what. When I put the reason that this is a perfect example of that. It's like, if I posted a dick pic right now, it would be fake. If I posted a picture with my shirt off, it would be fake. And I would never do any of these things. If there was a sex tape that leaked of me and my wife, it would be fake. Like there would be no standard of disproving it. And that's why, and I'm just gonna bluntly say it, it's actually a narcissistic trait. Okay. This is a narcissistic trait.
Yeah, how could Witsit prove he's a man right now, Yasukeh?
Well, I can't, because if I could, then it would take away this claim of superior pattern recognition that you've spotted something that most cannot. So it has to be unfalsifiable to entirely ensure that remains in place, to entirely protect this claim of kind of like basically superiority. So like it's the same thing with this I'm the one that noticed that the trip was fake type of vibe. It's like they thought they could pull it over on the truthers, but who do they think they're messing with? We're some of the most veteran truthers ever. Whatever. I see posts like this on Excel. There is not one piece of evidence that can convince these people that the trip was real at this point. Now, like, he's different. He's saying he hasn't been convinced it's fake yet, although he has a bias to think it's fake. But once he said that it was fake, he wouldn't go back. And all the arguments for it would be unfalsifiable.
So, yeah, for example, that I'm perfectly fine with the footage being real.
Answer Jeremy's question, though. Like, what could I do right now to prove I'm a dude?
So I was going to say it in the general way of how you would disprove this as an idea, as opposed to specifically with you, which could be said as avoiding the question. Find somebody in high levels of influence, like really, really high up there, like not any of this kind of like weird middle ground stuff, that has all of the observable traits of the gender that they present as. Like, find a single person walking downstairs that walks in the way that they're supposed to, that, you know, has a brow ridge, has a blown out facial features, has all of the traits that are supposed to be that, because the only people that I see who have a skeleton like me are, you know, women in these high places. So in this sense, to disprove this idea,
maybe you're a woman.
You just have to
Maybe you're the
show.
woman.
That's what I was just thinking. How do you know you're not the woman?
I mean, regardless, there's still differences in male and female skeletons.
Well, hold on. Can I just real fast jump in? How have you confirmed? Because real fast, how have you built up this this knowledge of yours? You said you were like just observing people, whatever, like throughout like years and whatnot. Like, have you actually confirmed that they are what they are? You know, like you haven't seen their penises or vaginas. I'm just saying, like, I find that a little weird.
So I don't actually care about what gender somebody is, because I'm only looking at the things that I actually can physically observe and verify, which is the bones and the markers that can be observed from people in normal day-to-day lives. And I would assume that most people that I see in my normal day-to-day lives are as they present themselves as. So I can use that as a case to build up an understanding of these differences and test it over and over and over and over again. So there'll be some times where I'm like, oh, hey, this person has, a little bit too much of a brow ridge. Like, so understanding the range of what is possible. And then
What can Witsit do to prove he's a man, bro? You're like, I can't believe this is the topic I woke up to. I gotta go get some coffee. But what can Witsit do to prove he's a man right now?
It got to be funded a new experiment in Yasukeh's lab,
Yasukeh.
where you can be properly touched and experimented upon, right?
Hey,
no.
Yasukeh. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to say anything.
Hold on, let's try to be socially aware, guys. Obviously, that was for Yasukeh.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say anything too crude, because like there's, because there's the obvious joke of like, so seeing it, that doesn't really count. You have to like have somebody that's trustworthy tug on it, because it could just be a prosthetic.
No, bro. I'm just gonna say OnlyFans is a joke. You went way further, bro.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to go in that sense. Because, it could easily be a prosthetic. Like Hollywood has a very big prosthetic penis agency.
This is the problem, right? Like I don't just
and experimented upon, right? Witsit with X-ray.
No.
Yasukeh. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to say anything.
Socially aware, guys. Hold on, let's try to be socially aware, guys. Obviously, that was for Yasukeh.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say anything too crude, because like there's because there's the obvious joke of like, so seeing it, that doesn't really count. You have to like have somebody that's trustworthy tug on it, because it could just be a prosthetic.
Oh no, bro.
Oh my
I'm just gonna say OnlyFans is a joke, but you went way further, bro.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to go in that sense, because it could easily be a prosthetic.
That's it.
Like Hollywood has a very big prosthetic penis agencies.
No, but see, this is the problem, right? Like, I don't dispute that there is some of this going on in like higher levels of Hollywood and politicians. Like, you can look at like the French prime minister or president, whatever they're called, right? Like, clearly that quote unquote wife is a dude, like pretty provably a dude. And there is something to this. I don't. So like when I've researched it, it hasn't just been a full swap. It's been men and men. And it's more so because secret societies at the very top, they don't actually allow women in. So you would actually just have a bunch of men, some men pretending to be women. And that was like Queen Victoria's secret. That's what Victoria's secret was that Queen Victoria was a dude. And that's why she never had any children. And there's like, it was kind of a known thing that it was a tranny. If you look at some literature from back then and blah, blah, blah. But you completely and entirely discredit the fact that this phenomenon does exist at some point. And I will say, some people might think this sounds crazy right now. That's my point. People think what I'm saying sounds crazy right now. If you look into the French president's quote-unquote wife, it is provably a dude. Provably, all the way back to childhood. Provably, even Candace Owens did a whole expose on it. They refused to actually sue for defamation because it would come out in court. It's a whole thing. It's a whole freaking thing. And then the person that they're with got with them when they were 14. So like on his face at the least, there's like pedophilia going on. And it was like all of a sudden the male in the family just disappeared. And then boom, we have a quote unquote female, no actual verification of them prior to the male in the family disappearing and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, you can look at Candace Owens' kind of expose on it. Ironically, it's very good. But my point is that trying to tell someone that the French president's wife is a dude is already difficult enough because they think it's automatically crazy because it sounds crazy. And then when you go the next level where you claim like literally everyone that's ever been on a YouTube live stream, basically anyone with any notoriety whatsoever is actually the opposite sex, because gender is actually a social construct. I don't know why you're using that word. Then it completely discredits the real phenomenon. This is the same thing with this final experiment thing with people claiming that was all fake. What it has now effectively done is thrown an asterisk. It's completely undermined all the legitimate critique of some of the space fakery. Like, well, if these people obviously have no discernment. They think that they think there's this like 5 football field big studio that they're faking Antarctica in. So of course they think they fake space, right? They have no discernment. So it does the exact opposite of what you are seemingly or allegedly trying to accomplish, which would be to expose lies. It does the exact opposite. It completely discredits the legitimate truths because now it completely discredits the discernment of the source that's calling out the other lies.
This is exactly what I was referring to with the whole like Agent Shill thing, as in you have these really obvious cases that are like not even in question, so that if somebody thinks of, oh, hey, is this person Agent Shill? No, because they don't act really obvious like this other case that I know. In the same sense of, you have the Wikipedia cases, which are the only ones that you'd be willing to bring up, which is, the Macron's wife, Michelle Obama, Serena Williams sisters, maybe Taylor Swift if you're like feeling a little bit spicy. These like Wikipedia level cases, if anything, the cases that are super, super obvious, super, super out there, where you have, like photos from their childhood where it looks like they're dressing as a man. Like, if anything, these cases hide all of the other cases because, I would know if Melania Trump was a dude because I would see photos of her as a child and she would be dressing as a boy. Where, if anything, those obvious cases hide it. And it's also funny when Candace Owens talks about it, when she's like the number one example that people always bring up in terms of this idea of being gender inverted.
Yikes.
Really?
I understand your argument there. I think there's some validity in the general premise of that argument, right? Which is that it runs cover. There are overt cases that run cover for the more discrete cases. It's obviously in no way something that could ever be attached to Wikipedia, though. But I mean, I understand what you're trying to say, but
no, what I mean is that just quickly,
I know what you're trying to say.
The Wikipedia page on this idea has those specific names, and those are the only names that are accused.
Because, like, for example, Chuck Schumer's quote-unquote wife seems to clearly be a dude. I think it is a decently prevalent phenomena in higher positions, and I think it is specifically that men act like women, and it's 2 men that are together, and that's because at the higher levels of secret societies, women are literally not allowed. Like, even openly now, today in 2024, women are not allowed to be high-level Masons. They're just not allowed to be in the States.
What about Bill Gates?
Bill Gates looks pretty feminine. But this is the thing, right? This is the thing. This is the thing, bro. I think a lot of these people have even been replaced. So, like, I'm like all open to these conspiracies. But whenever someone comes and tells me that I'm a woman and my wife's a dude, bro, and I just made babies with my penis with my wife, I think you sound insane. Like, if you're an actual truther and you're honest at all, you would have to acknowledge that obviously in the scenario that I'm actually just a dude and my wife's actually just a woman, I would think you're insane, right? Like, if you were me, you would obviously think you're insane. Yeah.
Hey, y'all should look up Keanu Reeves' girlfriend, and then what's the one?
No, not Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, no, I would just say, look at this photo, right? Does this look like 2 male skulls, or does it look like 1 male skull and 1 female skull?
The other
Bro,
one is,
all NBA players are women, though. That is ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, so in this sense, you understand the obvious cases before you understand the obvious cases before you understand the outliers.
Yeah, but you're telling me the best basketball players in the world are women,
bro.
Where's a video that I can watch all this stuff at?
To me, just that girl, the girl looks like a dude, and the dude looks like a dude. He looks kind of feminine,
like he has a really like. Females tend to have more compact facial features, as in their face is smaller on their skull, whereas men tend to have more blown up features. So that sort of difference there. I made a great illustration to show this concept. The skull on the left is a female skull, and the skull on the right is a male skull.
What about the shoulder width to their head ratio? Like man is like 3 head widths wide at the shoulder, women are like 2.5 head wide at the shoulders.
Yeah, there is something to that, and people would obviously give the example of like, oh, but Asian women, like obviously there is variances within race, as in Asian women tend to have more compact hips, like their hips aren't as big. So that is also where you look at things like sort of within racial paradigms as well, and you account for these things. You don't just ignore them and say that okay, because this Asian woman at the market has small hips, therefore she's a dude. Like, no, obviously not.
Well, I just wanted to say anybody who thinks that Witsit is a girl and the guy is a dude is a little mentally challenged.
I only make definitive claims on the skeletal features which are shown.
That's fair.
And I maybe said it like not that, but that's generally how I would prefer to operate.
His shoulders are too broad. Like, I've seen so many of his videos. Like, he's tall, he's broad-shouldered, like, he's got a fucking beard. Like, a woman has a hard time getting an actual beard, even with years of hormone therapy. And it would take years to get an actual beard. Why do you think a lot of these men, quote-unquote, who actually do fall into this category, have shaved faces?
I mean, you see a lot of trans men, and they have pretty big beards. Like, just look at Matt Walsh, you know?
Hey, Yasukeh, I got a proposition for you. I'm not saying I would ask for this, because this is obviously, I don't want this. But if you were walking down a hallway towards a camera without shoes on, and like, I guess not wearing a shirt so you can see his hips, like his abs or whatever, would that be enough for you?
I mean, that would be a useful data point. However,
Or
we
would
have
you
a
just
lot
leave
of
it
data.
against them without like any difference?
In this sense, all of the footage that will be coming out of the final experiment will have many pictures of gait. So I don't think there needs to be any more, because there's already more than enough footage of him walking.
So just like from the hips down, walking towards the camera, just as walking gait, you would be able to figure it out, right?
If I wanted something as definitive as possible, it would be downstairs.
Okay, so
But yeah,
downstairs.
gait would be.
So not even the hips, abs, nothing, just from like his midsection down. Stairs.
Yeah, if we're talking about most definitive, 100% no wiggle room, it would be that.
Okay, well, he did ask you that question, like what would be definitive for you. So I think it's important to list your terms if like that's something he even cares about doing. But.
Oh yeah, for sure. But on the walking downstairs, the thing that I said to you yesterday.
Walking downstairs.
Yeah. Like here's Lizbeth walking upstairs, and knees are very close together, which is what male knees are like.
You gotta be kidding, bro. Now you're
Dude,
saying
according to you,
Lisbeth is a guy?
Yeah, according to you, every man is a woman and every woman is a man. Like, this is crazy, bro.
I mean, in
feel
this
we're
sense,
wasting our time in this subject. Like, for real, we're being trolled. I think. Just saying.
In this sense, like if you look at the community post of everybody with their shirt off from the final experiment, there are a lot of big hips on the dudes, and you would have to claim the exception for all of these people.
What?
Like, oh, they're just the exception.
I have tiny hips. Like, this is what I'm saying. You're just like not even saying things that are true.
He said your hands are so small you're scared to eat at Burger King. Bro,
It's
you gotta
fucking
get
got-
on something.
It's bizarre.
got
because
bundles
you're
of clothes,
engaging
though.
with it. You're engaging with it.
I want to
Bro,
know.
I know because I'm about to read a story to Aaliyah for a nap, but just to reiterate why I is because it was to kind of make the point that when people kind of stake their flag, no matter how patently wrong they are, there is no actual evidence that it's really going to present them. If I film myself walking down the stairs in some twisted way, it will confirm this guy's theory I'm a woman or whatever. So I brought this up is because I'm about to drop a 25-hour video today. I'm going to do a private stream with my Kofi supporters, showing a bunch of the behind the scene, and drop that footage. I was making the point that, like, they'll still say it's fake. I mean, there are people claiming it's fake without even watching all the videos and data we're dropping. So, but I got to read a story to Aaliyah. She's delirious for some reason. She didn't get enough sleep. So.
Okay. I will say it for the record that I am in the same sense of with me saying that I'd be biased towards wanting the 24-hour sun footage to be faked. I have every reason to believe that. Like, I don't trust any single person who went on the trip. I actively go against myself the ideas that are being put forth, and I am entirely unconvinced by any of the evidence that people have put forth thus far. So in this sense, I don't confirm everything that would preconceive my bias. And if there are pieces of evidence that would go against what I want to believe, I'm perfectly fine with accepting that.
No doubt. All right.
I'll
What's
talk to
it?
you
You
guys
want to
in a
know
minute.
my criticism of
Hey,
you and
okay.
Jaron going?
Yeah, if it can be really quick, I need to read Aaliyah's story. I'll be back in a few minutes.
I think it distracts from a more important problem with Antarctica, and that is the Antarctic Treaty and the fact that we can't independently explore there. If I were both of you, I would do everything I can to emphasize that point to people and not whatever the hell the sun's doing in the sky.
Mm-hmm. Well, now I get to tell the whole world and millions of people on shows like Candace Owens about that very thing. So yeah, I think so. You're welcome.
Yeah, but it
All right,
doesn't
I'll
prove
be back
anything
in.
relevant.
I didn't say it proves anything. Now I get to tell the whole world about our actual positions and stuff like that. So, okay, gotta go.
All right.
Later, brother.